Hi, how you doing, and welcome back to a video on the channel. What we have for you today is our wildcard team going into game week 6, and even if you're not wildcarding, hopefully this video will help you out with some of the transfers for your own team, because it is a 96% rated team, which is the highest one of the whole season so far. If you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. We are a small channel trying to grow, so if this video does help you out, subscribing would be really appreciated, and it is free. It is worth noting that this video is being recorded before Sunday's games have kicked off, but unless there's some major injuries, there's not really anything that would affect my team selection here. So let's get into the video. And to start with the team, this does actually have 3 triple ups, as you can tell by the title, in this team, but I'm going to start with the rest of the team so far. So this is how it looks without my 9 players from triple ups, and we're going to start with Calvert-Lewin up front. And Everton actually have a great run of games: Palace, Newcastle, Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham and Brentford in the next 7. From an attacking point of view, they are fantastic, and Calvert-Lewin is someone who, you know, when fit is going to start every game and is a 15 goal a season striker. I know some of you might be thinking, well, he's injury prone, I don't really want to get him in my team, but until he's injured, he's not injured and he's going to play. And then if he does get hurt, that's what your free transfers are for. For those emergencies, you can take him out and replace him with someone else. Compared to Vardy and João Pedro, I think if I'm on wildcard, I would definitely get Calvert-Lewin in ahead of those strikers. Everton's fixtures look fantastic, and from an attacking point of view, they've been great so far this season. Ollie Watkins, as well as another striker, is absolutely brilliant. He's shown now that he's back in goal scoring form, and Villa's next 4 are Ipswich, Man United, Fulham and Bournemouth. Sometimes people are saying, oh, how are Aston Villa going to manage the Champions League? Well, they managed well with European football last season, and Ollie Watkins got like 35 attacking returns in the Premier League. So I think, if anything, playing against Champions League defences is going to be more of a challenge for them. So when they do end up playing someone like Ipswich, it's going to be a bit easier. He's maybe even more likely to score goals having had that Champions League experience than he would have done last season. Leif Davis and Bednarek in my defence, I think, are really good options. Unless you're going to go with the premium defenders, there's not many clean sheets about. So I think you need to save money in your defence, because attacking players are really at a premium this season and you need to save money somewhere else. Leif Davis, I think, is a brilliant option at 4.5 million for Ipswich. Yeah, they're not going to keep loads of clean sheets, but he gives that attacking threat. And as we just said, not many teams are keeping clean sheets this season. As it stands, he's only 2% rated, and Ipswich's fixtures look brilliant so far this season, and you can absolutely just swap him and Bednarek as it goes. Even if you need an injury, like if you've got an injury in your team, you need someone to come off the bench, having someone like Bednarek come off your bench with 1 or 2 points isn't the end of the world, because loads of players in your starting 11, they get 1 or 2 points every game week anyway. So having that impact off the bench just for a couple of points is what you want. You don't want loads of expensive players on your bench taking up the money. Otherwise, I'd say this should be in your starting 11. So the first triple up we're going to talk about is Arsenal. And like we said, this is recorded before the Man City game, but there's not really anything in the Man City game that can happen that would advise me going against an Arsenal triple up. I think if you're wildcarding this game week, it is an absolute must to get 3 Arsenal players, even if it's just for that Leicester, Southampton, Bournemouth 3 games in a row after Man City. I think that's totally worth it. But the Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea games after that, they're also pretty good. Arsenal are as close to fixture proof as any team in the league, and we know how consistent they are. I've gone for an Arsenal double up compared to an Arsenal double attack, mainly because Odegaard's not there. I think if Odegaard was there, I'd maybe question which way round it is, but we're not too sure how that's going to influence them going forward. We know how consistent they are defensively. That's not going to change unless there's some injury news before deadline 6. So for me, Raya and Gabriel are a must, and I still like Saka's consistency. They're still a good team. So putting Saka in the team makes total sense as well. Now, the second triple up we've gone for is Man City, and although they have Newcastle next, I actually don't think that's a bad fixture for Man City. Newcastle haven't hit the ground running this season and are inconsistent at best. After the Newcastle game, there's Fulham, Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth and Brighton. Now, the question here is Phil Foden. You might be thinking, why on earth have you got Phil Foden in the team? Well, I actually really like having 1 or 2 high upside, risky picks that are low owned. He's only 5.6% owned, and it's not like we're picking a player who's in bad form. Foden just has no form. He's got no evidence to speak of how he's going to play. But we know how he plays when he's in the Man City team. And as soon as he hits the ground, he'll be getting you attacking returns for your team. And even if he doesn't, you can move off him onto someone cheaper. He's at a great price point, and maybe you want to have a Luis Diaz instead. That's okay. But I think that 1.5 million that you would save from a Foden to a Luis Diaz, say, there's not really anywhere on this team I could add in 1.5 million and have a more impactful player than what I could have already. You could maybe say you could upgrade Leif Davis, but I think for that value at 6 million, you can't really get anyone in there that you would rather have. I think I would much rather save and invest that money in Phil Foden. Same with Gvardiol. He's maybe a bit of a minutes risk at the moment, but if you look at those three Man City players, I think any negatives you say for them, you would say for any Man City players across the board. You know, there's nobody that I would rather have than these three players. And these fixtures that they've got coming up are fantastic. And Gvardiol can still get attacking returns. I think if you swapped Foden to someone like Diaz, maybe you didn't want Gvardiol, maybe you wanted to up Gvardiol to Trent, that would leave you with just one Man City player in Haaland. And I'm not going to go into why you should get Haaland in your team. Everyone knows you should get Haaland in your team. But I wouldn't want to have one Man City player going forward. So if that's the case, who are you going to get in? I think it has to be these two. Now, one player you could upgrade from saving money on Foden is Lewis Potter. I did have a little play around with the prices, and the best one I could look at was Harvey Barnes from Newcastle. But as we've said, Newcastle aren't 100%, a go-to team at the moment. Lewis Potter could potentially be Brentford overkill because they are the third triple up in my team. Now, I think he's going to start more minutes, and at 5 million, that's a great price point. If you had someone like Morgan Rogers in your team to start with, I wouldn't recommend swapping Rogers to Lewis Potter. I don't think that's a good move, really. But if you didn't have him and you wanted an extra player, Brentford's fixtures do look really good. They've got West Ham, Wolves, Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, Leicester in the next 8. Now, whilst it's a triple up, having Vandenberg, it's not quite a pure triple up because he's someone who's going to be on your bench more often than not. And he does actually save transfer funds at 4 million. He has played 90 minutes twice. And I know you could say, well, that was against Man City and Spurs away from home where Brentford went with a back 5. So he doesn't play in the next few games. That's okay. He's a 4 million defender. He's not supposed to play. But combined with Leif Davis and Bednarek, he could really help you with your rotation for the rest of your team. And what you want is players in your team who are going to be able to rotate well for the next 10, 15 game weeks before we get access to a second wildcard. And even then, you might want to not use it right away. So the upside for Vandenberg is there if he plays. If he doesn't play, it's okay. He's 4 million. It's not like you've got an expensive player on your bench. So as we said at the start, the team rating is 96%, which is pretty good. The data can't sort of legislate for everything. There's so many variables that we see every game week where, there's crazy things that happen and we think, oh, I would never have predicted that. So, but it is a good baseline to have. I think if your wildcard team can get rated, shout out to Fantasy Football Hub, you go to their team rated tool. If they can get rated between 91 to 95, 96, I think that's perfectly fine and you're on the right tracks. The team value is 100.3 million. So hopefully a lot of people can afford this team. You could also save money by already having Haaland. Say if you got Haaland when he was 15 mil, well, there's 0.3 million saved right now. You don't need to buy him in at 15.3 million. So hopefully that will make it accessible to everybody who is wildcarding and maybe wants this team. So for me, the strengths are it focuses on consistent teams. Man City and Arsenal are as consistent as they get. They're going to be top 2 very likely in the Premier League this season. So if you are going to use the triple up on 2 teams, I don't really see 2 better teams to have. Brentford, we've talked about different options that you could have instead of triple Brentford, but really what we're looking at is Mbeumo and one other, depending on the fixtures and how risky you want to be. And these are good players for long term. Like we said, you're not going to get another wild card until midway through the season. And even if you use it straight away, then you would have to not make do with not having a wild card for another 15 weeks after that. So when you are wildcarding, you don't want to get 4 weeks down the line and think, oh, I really want this player in or that player in, making wholesale changes, because you can't do FPL like that, which is why we sort of said one risky pick like someone like a Foden is worth it. That's easy to move off if you did need to. So the weaknesses are, we've talked about having a weak bench. I don't really see a problem with having a weak bench. I think that, like we said, getting 1 or 2 points per player off your bench, come in if they need to, is absolutely fine, because loads of your starting 11 get 1 or 2 points every game week anyway. And how often have you actually needed bench players so far this season? Maybe once, maybe twice. You don't actually need them very often. Maybe as we get later into the season, you're maybe going to want, sort of around Christmas time, a bit of a stronger bench. But even then, I don't think this bench is terrible. And we also question Mark Foden's form. So Phil Foden, he's not necessarily someone who is playing well at the moment because he's not playing. But overall, we know what a quality player is, and that huge upside there, I think, is worth the risk. So let me know what you think about my team. Let me know if you're wildcarding in the comments. Is there anyone that you think I've missed or you wouldn't have in your team? It'd be really interesting to get your thoughts. Please do like and subscribe. The support has been awesome all season. Hopefully you're having a good game week, and I will see you in the next one.